Hello classy people, this is Josh the Tophat Gamer and it's time for my top 10 games of 2015. What a year we just had. So many great games from the indie scene to the big AAA releases. Sure, it wasn't without some hiccups here and there, but the fact that I had so much trouble debating what should be on this list certainly says something about the quality of 2015 as a whole. So without further ado, let's begin. Number 10. Until Dawn. This is how you do interactive drama video games. David Cage and Quantic Dream, take note. Until Dawn is a love letter to campy horror films and pays homage to everything from slasher flicks like Friday the 13th and Halloween to the Saw films. Its gameplay, much like many games of the style, leaves a little something to be desired, but what it lacks in mechanical depth, Until Dawn makes up for with an entertaining story, complete with a spooky atmosphere and surprisingly solid performances from the entire cast. I started the game not really liking the majority of the cast, but their performances soon warmed me, and after playing through a couple of times, I was genuinely surprised to see that for once, a game has followed through on the promise that your actions matter. Sure, there are some moments that really don't allow for much freedom, but those are equally balanced by moments that impact the way the story unfolds in ways you could never have predicted. Plus, I don't think a game has thrown up so many twists, turns, and false flags before. The narrative is delightfully unpredictable, making it easy to stay invested even if you don't warm to the characters like I did. And I can't wait to see more from Until Dawn in the future.
Everything you do, every decision you make from now on will open doors to the future.
Number 9. Her Story. What a strange video game. Even calling Her Story a video game doesn't seem quite right. It's a narrative experience wrapped in a unique puzzle game presented in an equally unique way. You're given access to a database full of interview tapes related to a very special police case that you must get to the bottom of. The game starts you off with a selection of clips that contain the word murder, and from there it's up to you to pick out keywords and scour the database for answers. It's surprisingly engaging, and every time I stumbled upon a new detail, I'd sit staring at my screen stunned for a moment. I can't think of any other game that has that effect on me. Her Story kept me enthralled with its mysterious narrative, but it also helps that the presentation was so immersive with the old school PC interface, the subtle music changes, and the occasional reflections of the in-game PC monitor. Her Story deserves its spot on this list as the most unique gameplay experience I've seen in some time. I hope this game inspires more and more unique experiences in the coming years.
I didn't murder Simon. You've got it wrong. You've got the wrong person.
Number 8. Orion the Blind Forest. Few games look quite as striking as Orion the Blind Forest. From the moment it was first shown, I can't think of a single person I spoke to about the game that wasn't captivated by its distinct visuals. And to my surprise, the game was more than just a pretty face. Orion the Blind Forest featured a story that tugged at the heartstrings, while challenging players with surprisingly competent and varied gameplay. Mechanically speaking, Ori is a satisfying mix of Rayman-style platforming and Metroid-style power-ups and world traversal. But, as I said, the game's biggest draw was indeed its visuals, which certainly do not disappoint with a vibrant, varied color palette and animations as smooth as silk. I love platformers and the world could stand to have a few more like Ori in the Blind Forest. Number 7. Mortal Kombat X. This year was basically a dream for my inner fanboy. So many franchises I love were getting brand new entries, and one of the first for 2015 was another foray into the ultra-violent world of Mortal Kombat. I've been a fan of the series since I was a kid, and it's seen more downs than ups in its lifetime. I was surprised when NetherRealm Studios not only made a decent, unique reboot to the franchise, but followed it up with an amazing sequel. Mechanically speaking, MKX is fantastic, bringing speed and brutality back to the series. More interestingly, the game eschews the majority of its well-known roster in favor of pushing the next generation of mortal combatants. The new energy injected into the game with these new characters, as well as the implementation of multiple styles per character, allows for plenty of variety to keep competitive players on their toes. Add one of the best story modes in fighting games into the mix, as well as plenty of continued support from NetherRealm, and you have one of the best fighters around. Mortal Kombat X absolutely killed it.
Quan Chi wins. Fatality.
Number 6. Transformers Devastation. Platinum Games just can't fail. Last year they hit my top 3 with Bayonetta 2, and this year they've managed to bring us another radical action game with Transformers Devastation. The Transformers franchise is no stranger to the medium of video games, and there have been a couple of really good games here and there. But Platinum being Platinum injected a dose of the extreme into the franchise, and so we have a vibrant, cel-shaded G1 inspired Transformers adventure infused with a good helping of the same off-the-wall combat and action that makes titles like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising so exceptional. There's something that feels really amazing about unleashing a combo on an enemy Decepticon only to transform into a car and barrel into them to finish them off. The idea to integrate the Autobots' vehicle forms into combat was a stroke of genius, and the range of fairly varied characters to play as is a nice addition that encourages multiple playthroughs. And before I forget, the soundtrack is an awesome combination of techno and ridiculous rock tracks to keep the adrenaline pumping as the action runs hot. Seriously, one of the best adaptation video games I have ever played.
My destiny awaits below.
Number 5. Fallout 4. Like I said with MKX, my inner fanboy was spoiled this year, and Fallout 4 was one of those games I thought I wouldn't see for a while to come. I had my fair share of problems with the game. Its dialogue system feels pared down and doesn't allow for as much flexibility or role-playing as previous games, and the various quests lack variety. But even so, I had a blast exploring one of my favourite worlds in video games. The new approach to weapons and armor customization, as well as the way power armor works less like armor and more like a vehicle, is very much appreciated, and settlement building is a neat feature that I could see myself losing plenty of time to. Even though Fallout 4 doesn't feel like the same opportunity to roleplay as, say, New Vegas, there are still plenty of interesting stories to be told and characters to meet. Plus that old-timey radio is as swinging as ever. Perfect soundtrack to murder.
Me a long damn time to get a feel for this place. It's got its flaws, sure, but it beats the hell out of anywhere else in the Commonwealth.
Number 4. Rise of the Tomb Raider. This one snuck onto the list last minute as the final game I played for 2015. Rise of the Tomb Raider, despite the silly name, may just be the perfect sequel, as it has improved upon its predecessor in practically every way. Combat and platforming feel much more responsive, while new mechanics such as the axe hook, climbing arrows, and mid-combat crafting keep things from getting old. Plus, the stealth has been improved vastly since Lara's last outing. Its story, though predictable at times, still manages to maintain interest for the duration, plus there's a surprising amount of side content to keep players exploring well after beating the main narrative. If the new rebooted Tomb Raider series can continue to improve like its newest edition, then I think we can expect to see Lara on fantastic adventures for some time to come, and I look forward to it. Number 3. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Confession time. I've only played a little bit of the original Witcher. I have The Witcher 2, but haven't found the time to get into it. But it doesn't take a long-time fan to appreciate just how amazing The Witcher 3 is. On a purely mechanical level, this game is a fantastic representation of what it would feel like to be a proper monster hunter. You investigate to find out what you're up against before you prepare the appropriate gear and equipment and walk into battle. For once, reading the additional notes in a game actually feels useful as opposed to just being flavor text. And then when you approach the game as a narrative, you'll find some of the most grounded, well-written characters and stories not only in video games, but in fantasy in general. You need look no further than the Bloody Baron quest line to see just how enthralling this game's writing can be. And it doesn't hurt that the game looks incredible either. Aside from Fallout 4, I don't think there are many other video game worlds I've enjoyed just being in as much as The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
And you, White Wolf.
No.
Number 2. Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. I am a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. I first witnessed Hideo Kojima's special kind of madness as a kid, watching his dad play the first MGS on the PlayStation 1 back in 1999. Ever since then, I couldn't get enough of the world and characters of Metal Gear. Though the Phantom Pain's narrative feels a bit unfocused, and there are definitely reasons for it to feel somewhat unfinished, Metal Gear Solid 5 is extremely impressive in terms of its polished gameplay mechanics and mind-blowing visuals. Though the story falls short in some areas, others are helped along and made more memorable due to the fantastic acting from an accomplished cast, with the possible exception of the underutilized Kiefer Sutherland. MGS5 could stand purely on its finely tuned gameplay, which allows for various approaches to situations. Running and gunning, sneaking around in a cardboard box, clearing out bases with a sniper rifle, all of these approaches are viable and open to players in almost every situation. And the game runs spectacularly, despite the detail and scope of the game's massive environments and the ever-changing weather systems. Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain is easily one of the best examples of this generation of gaming, and the only reason it isn't in my number one spot can be summed up in one word.
Rest in peace this time. I'll see you in hell, boss.
Number 1. Bloodborne. Have you ever looked at Dark Souls and wished it was a bit faster and a lot creepier? Clearly From Software did, because that's pretty much how Bloodborne plays out. Many of the systems and mechanics from Dark Souls have been transplanted into the gothic, blood-drenched world of Yharnam, and with a good sprinkle of cosmic horror thrown in for good measure, we find ourselves with Bloodborne. I love everything about this game. Its winding, interconnected pathways build a sense of claustrophobia and dread, which is capitalized on by unthinkable masses of shambling horrors and monsters that lurk just beyond the realm of our knowing. Ugh. The setting and monsters that drip with eldritch influences would have been enough to secure Bloodborne a spot in my top 10, but the familiar Soul-style combat with just an added bit of speed and brutality, along with a small variety of inventive, unique weapons, seals it as the best game of 2015. I find myself looking forward to diving back into this one-of-a-kind world since the release of its first DLC pack, though at the same time, I dread submerging myself back into the Lovecraftian nightmare that is Bloodborne. So there you have it, my top 10 games of 2015. Now, of course, these are my picks for this year, but I'm always interested in hearing what you classy people have to say about it. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What made your list this year? Let me know in the comments as we look ahead to 2016. Have a safe and happy new year, and game on.